Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, is backing off her harsh criticism of President Trump. She now says she's ready to work with the U.S. on, quote unquote, peace and dialogue. She may see the writing on the wall after President Trump warned Venezuela could face a second wave of strikes if they don't behave. Even with his regime on its last legs, thousands packed Caracas Saturday, demanding the release of Nicolas Maduro. His capture could jumpstart a new age of democracy across that region. Chief international correspondent Steve Harrigan is in Colombia, near the border with Venezuela. Steve.
Harris, at this busy border crossing, there's one thing different today. If you look over my right shoulder, it's Colombian military armored personnel carriers. They are not normally here. They're here today after what's happened in Venezuela. Colombia is usually the first stop for Venezuelans trying to flee. More than 3 million Venezuelans have come here to live. If there is violence inside the capital, here is where they're likely to come. So this country really bracing for a potential humanitarian crisis. On the streets in Caracas, in Venezuela, there has not been any sort of widespread violence. Instead, there have been some protests. Many of those protests from Maduro's political party, many of the party calling for Maduro to come back, showing their support for him. As far as this border crossing goes, it's operating as normal. We're not seeing a flood of people. You don't need a visa to get from Venezuela to Colombia, so pretty much you drive through a lot of Venezuelan license plates, cars, and then motorcycles, and then people on foot. We've spoken to a lot of people on foot, asked them why they're leaving. They say this is just typical business, but we don't know what is ahead. We've had this guy for 12 years, and we have no idea what's next. So some real concern there on the part of average Venezuelans crossing over today. Harris?
You just set me up perfectly for my next guest. Good to see you, Steve. Thank you. In focus now, Rick De La Torre, the former CIA station chief in Caracas. Great to see you today. Look, I was writing down a couple of questions as our reporter was giving us what's on the ground. Who's on the ground right now running? I mean, which cartels are trying to get out of Dodge at this point?
Right, and that is a concern, right? For a number of years now, the Maduro regime has opened its doors to a number of Colombian terrorist organizations like the FARC-D and ELN, Segunda Marquetalia. They're all living there in the jungles just outside of Cucuta. I've been there. I've been to that bridge myself, Arauca, in those areas. I think what's going to happen next is going to be interesting, and it's going to be interesting to see how Colombia plays along, or if it doesn't, as Venezuela comes under more and more control of U.S. forces. Obviously, it'll be part of our objective to, I suspect, to weed out these terrorists that are the ones that were partners with the Maduro regime and actually moving the drugs, facilitating the human trafficking, working with Iran and others, and extracting gold and silver minerals and selling them. I think what's going to happen is those folks are going to have to make a decision. Are they going to want to face U.S. The United States Department of War, or are they going to cross the border back into Colombia? And if they try to cross the border back into Colombia, what's Colombia going to do about it?
Gosh, there's so many different ways I want to go. So I'm going to whittle it down to this for my next question. How much help will be needed on the ground in Venezuela to keep the peace? I mean, from what you just said, you're going to have fighting factions, and people are going to get caught in between that. The president mentioned in recent days that maybe some sort, he didn't give details on this, of presence of U.S. military on the ground there. From your estimation, having been there, what does it take? You got a country to run. He says he's going to do that. What could that look like?
Well, I think the good news is, and those that keep making these, in my opinion, false claims that this is another Iraq or Afghanistan, let's keep in mind, there's very few, if anyone, in Venezuela who's willing to lay their life down and be a martyr in any way, shape, or form for Maduro and his politics, right? It's not ideology. Most of the military are poor conscripts that have not been paid or fed. They're more interested in going back to their home villages and just living their lives. The only folks that were really benefiting from this were the generals in some of these far out Wild West kind of areas. So Maduro has never really had a lot of control, full control of some of those areas. He certainly benefited from the kickbacks and the money that his generals were giving him from the Cartel de Soles. But so this is an area that it truly is the Wild West in the jungle. And I'm not exactly sure how we're going to play in that, if we'll even play at all. As for what kind of boots on the ground, and I use that term very, very loosely, I think certainly there's a role for civil engineers and others to play in infrastructure, in kind of making sure that the lights are on, the gas is working, those kinds of things. But I don't see the kind of occupation type forces that some are painting.
Yeah, I mean, look, it becomes politics at some point, right? That's why certain people will say those things really, really quickly. You've been on the ground, no doubt you made friends there. The best kind of intelligence in that type of arena is human intelligence. What would you say to the people of Venezuela today?
It's a great day to celebrate, and they know this, right? You've seen it everywhere. I think they're a little confused by some folks who tell them that they're worried for them, or this is bad news in some way, or that we apologize for on behalf of the United States. They're looking at them like, you're nuts. We've been wanting this for well over 20 years. They went from being one of the wealthiest nations in our hemisphere to being one of the poorest, and now there's our opportunity to join the real world again.
Hope. Rick De La Torres, thank you very much. Good to have you on the program.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.